All right, tonight's demo, I will be making a beer tap handle. And a lot of things are very similar if you're making a peppermill or any kind of spindle turning. But Lager Ale, they're down at the south entrance to the Port Everglades. Literally get on 595, go as far as you can. You'll see the entrance to the port. You do a U-turn, come back, take the first right turn. They're on the left. I've made over 250 of these for them since 2012. He gave me, like 2 weeks ago, 9 of these so I could refinish them. And one of them had the recess in the bottom like this. There's only 2 I made like that. This one and the first one I gave them. He gave me that back. I had to strip the polyurethane off and totally repaint it and fix it up and give it back to him. And then he ordered 6 more because they're getting more distributors. They have beer in every Whole Foods stores in the country. It's in cans. But at their brewery down there, I want you to zero in on this picture. Did I bring it over there? This is the last batch I made. I had 3 of the old ones and I made 6 new ones. Oh, unknown setup. Okay, this is the ones I just redid, and I was down there at their brewery and they have 31 of these, 31 different flavors of beer. So there's 31 tap handles I made up there. So I went in one of the first times and I said, he said, this is the best beer I've ever had. And I said, well, what is it? He goes, mango jalapeno beer. He said you get that sweet mango taste and then the burn hits you on the way down. So they're always making new. They do contests for craft brewers, and so I guess there's some beer trucks going around, and they have the taps on the side. And like every person or company that sells beer in kegs and that, in bars and restaurants, they supply their own tap handle. Now, these were modeled after the old smokestacks at the Port Everglades, the big red and white ones. If you drove down that way, you saw them. If you were out in the ocean, that was your marker to come back into Port Everglades. A lot of beer tap handles are just shaped something like that. Sometimes they're just straight up like a big teardrop. There's all kinds of them. I've seen ones that look like dragons and just all kinds of things. So the principle is basically the same. And he just told me they're going to be wanting more, so I figured I'll make one here. I made a sample just to show parts of it, since this lathe isn't, well, it might be long enough to drill a hole in it. So,
Well, they just slip over the handle of the tap?
no, they have a brass insert in the bottom, which is 3/8 by 16 thread. That's the standard for beer tap handles. And when I started making those, the inserts I got were like an inch long or so, and they were $1.89 at Lowe's. They are $2.99 now at Lowe's, and they're $3.28 at Home Depot. These ones I got are a little bit shorter, and these used to be 89 cents if you buy like 80 of them, which I did. I've been out of those for a while, and I just ordered these. And they're coming in at $1.20 a piece now. So there's all kinds of different. If you're just making one and you're a home brewer and you're going to do that, just really go to Lowe's, buy the one for $3.
Take them up and jump in.
Longer, yeah. So let me gear up my chip preventer here.
Makes sense.
When I teach classes, I tell people, untuck your shirt, that way when the chips go down, they don't go inside your pants. Okay, I didn't think the lathe was long enough for me to drill out, so I already drilled this and put the insert in it, but I'm going to show you on this little piece. Obviously, saw is cut straight, so we start off with a blank. My handles are 9 7/8 inch tall. They were supposed to be 10, but chewing up the end, they got 1/8 inch shorter. So,
What is the wood?
this is just some soft maple. Usually I use a harder maple, that's what this is. And I've used Florida mahogany that's harder to work with than that stuff. I mean, getting the insert in the end is tough on the harder woods. Like I just cut out 2 blanks and I look at them, I think they're Ipe. I ain't gonna make deer handles out of those, it'd just be too hard. And I've used walnut, whatever scraps were around.
Well, yeah, you are painting them all over. So
Yeah, I used to buy blanks like this at Constantine's. The one blank was $5. And if I see a table on the side of the road and it's got legs, I take the legs off. That's what this last batch was, 6 of them. I had 3 table legs of cherry wood, so I made cherry wood ones.
Is Constantine's open closed now?
No, they're open. I actually stopped by there today and they were closed. They're only open Friday and Saturdays now. And a lot of the stuff is gone. And I looked through the windows and so they're open tomorrow and Saturday. But, I couldn't see if there was any turning tools left because there were 2 big cabinets in front of that window. So first thing, I'm just taking the spindle roughing gouge and rounding my piece out. I usually take my blank and make a tenon on both sides because I need to drill an accurate hole on both sides. The top hole on these, where this goes, is 3/8. That's a solid steel rod, but I usually use aluminum tubing or brass tubing, whichever I find, which is cheapest, I use that. And this was just a steel bolt I think I cut off just for my sample. This is the one I keep.
They give you the top part.
Yeah, no, I make the top part too. They had these decals they used to put, you used to buy them for every kind of beer they make. It got crazy. So they just got these like neon markers that they write on. It's kind of in between chalk and waxy thing. Okay, so the first thing, turn the lathe on. I already spun it to make sure it's not going to hit anything. Handle in low. Crank up the speed a little. Now I'm purposely making sure my face is over here and not here as I'm doing this, because if I'm being aggressive, one of these big corner chunks can come off. And I had 7 stitches here about 4 years ago from the turning exploding on this. What's that?
You don't use your face mask?
Oh yeah, I use it for riskier things. If I got bark on it, if it's a bigger
You
piece.
don't need for everything.
you should.
No. I don't for everything. If you're learning, yeah, use the face shield all the time. But see, I know not to have my face right here. Here's okay, here's okay. If something comes off and hits me here or here, it's not a big a deal. I normally would make a tenon on both sides, but I'm just going to do the one end because then we're going to move on to that. And I want to true up the end. Okay, I'm going to move on from this piece and we're going to come back to it. Yeah, we'll do it now. give that chuck a pop. Because you don't want to be able to unscrew it by hand. You need to use something to get it off. Because I was doing that once up at the Palm Beach Club, was doing a show, and
Do you ever take the piece over to the table saw and trim the corners off a little to make cutting it easier?
no, I use the bandsaw when I do that, yeah. But it depends on the piece. If I'm doing a hollow vessel or something, and it starts off a square blank, I usually go and nip the corners off. It just makes it easier.
Lee, what is this piece, the little one?
This is just a sample to show you how to put the insert in.
Oh,
Because I already did that part of it. How I drill that and do that. So right now I want to true up the end here, because starting a drill, because I cut my blanks rough. They're all janky and wobbly, and if I buy or get a blank that's perfectly square and true, the ends are true, and I'm going exactly on centers, that eliminates this step, but it's okay. So now I have my center marked. Now, it depends on the wood. This is a fairly soft wood, so it will drill quite easily. But if I have a harder wood, I start with a smaller drill bit. The 3/8 is for the top piece. And then I have a drill bit that's 2 sizes over a 1/2 inch to drill this one on the drill gauge. If I'm doing the other longer ones, I can go with just a 1/2 inch hole and they'll screw in fine. But these fins come way out and they're sharp, so you need a slightly bigger hole. So we lock it, come in slow to get it started. In and out. Now the top hole, I only need to go in about 3/4 inch. Inch is no problem, 4 inches is no problem, because that little piece I'm putting in there only goes down in about that far. So, and the same with this top when I make that.
So it doesn't matter if you go too far.
No, that doesn't matter at all. It's a soft wood, you can push it in and it'll drill a hole with the drill bit started. And if your lathe has enough power.
a lot of use.
Okay, now I know from this drill bit, which I cut shorter just to do this. That way, if I used a long bit, sometimes it wanders, and I want these as true as possible. And I just found this the other day, because I was having trouble getting those in. I go, oh yeah, I got to drill a bigger hole. So I may cut this one down to that short, that way, and cut some of this off. That way there's less chance of it wobbling. But it didn't do that on any of the 6, I just 7, counting this one that I just made. This is a 3/8. And I've heard it say that you should only drill it as deep as the drill bit is wide before you clean it out. Don't just keep going, because these flutes will clog up and can create a problem. Okay, now that hole is deep enough. So if this was the top hole with just the 3/8, that would be done. And I usually put the center in the hole after I'm done with both. This gets remounted between centers. So I'll put that in there and come back and clean this up. All my blanks I cut a little bit longer, and this side, once I clean it up, it'll be over here. Now I'm going to do it this way first and then flip it around. But this will be done, and then I come back with my template, my story stick, and I cut the length to exactly the same on all of them, which we'll do. Okay, now I need to go ahead, I'm going to go ahead and drill the bigger hole for the insert.
So on the one that you put the insert in already,
Yeah,
you're gonna turn it with the insert in it?
yes,
Why?
because it's much easier to get that thing in there. If it was done like this, it's too hard to hold it and get it in. Plus, it goes in straight when this end is still mounted in the leg. Because that way it's secure, I can put a bar in here and crank it down while I'm cranking that. I'm going to do that in just a second here, once I get this hole done.
Lee, quick question.
Yeah.
Can you use a bottle stopper mandrel to mount this back on? Because it's got
You
the same
can. It's the
3816 thread on it, right?
Yeah. But,
So it's the same inserts as the bottle stopper?
exactly.
Yes.
But this thing I put over here with this on it,
Okay.
and this screws it into the thing for me.
No, I'm talking about once it's already done and you start turning it
Yeah,
out.
absolutely. we
Instead
can
of
do
using a
that.
chuck, you can do.
It's the same exact thread,
Yeah.
3/8 by 16 TPI. And I have done that before in the past.
I kind of like it.
That was years ago.
It's fun.
Yeah, and always start your drill slow so the hole becomes true. If you go in too fast, the grain can force it off and it'll start tracking off at an angle. Or if one side of your drill bit's a little dull, it can do that also. Yeah, that's long enough. Maybe. Let's test it. Yeah, plenty long enough. Okay, so once, I usually drill the small hole first, and then I flip it around and put it this way, and then I drill it with the 3/8. And if something goes wrong, I can always flip it and drill the bigger hole on this side. I've had to do that before. So now I want to,
Can I ask another question?
yes sir.
Instead of remounting this twice, if you drill a hole, 3/8 hole, the insert hole from this side, and then you use a lamp auger from the other side to drill a hole, you don't have to take this in and out.
Yeah, but it doesn't need to go all the way through.
Well, you don't have to go all the way through.
Only needs to go in that and that. And yeah, you can come in through here. I've done that before.
I've
And
never done
even
this, so I'm
through
asking
this
the question,
end
yeah.
with the
It
3/8
works,
lamp
right?
auger.
If you go-
Yeah, but the live center where I went through, it forced wood chips into the bearings and ruined it on this end.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I've done that on my Powermatic, like
Yeah.
drilling for I was doing keens for a guy. And I was doing that first, and it ruined the live center. Because I had the keen spinning and on the steady rest.
I see what you're saying.
Okay, now I get this in. Now we do not turn the leg onto this. I'm gonna spin this, we on the overhead,
Yes.
it's out of focus. So it's focusing down here instead of up here. Should I move it back a little bit?
Yeah.
There.
Perfect.
So I'm turning the handle, just forcing it that way while I'm turning this piece. And it's easier with the big long one here because you can get a better grip. But there will become a point.
Are you just connecting taking the gold part from?
Yeah, I'm screwing that into the piece of
No, no,
wood.
no, I understand, but then afterwards.
Oh, yeah, it'll come off of
The part
this.
that you have in the chuck, wait, say that again?
It'll come right off of that. Just let me get this in and we give it a little twist backwards. See, now this is starting to get hard for me to turn, which I can force it and just, everybody in here is not young and beautiful like Rena, so we've got to take steps. That's why I brought this chuck, so I could crank this down and get this thing in.
But you're saying if the wood was harder than that, then you wouldn't be able to get it in?
Oh yeah, and this is a soft piece of wood compared to what I usually use. Usually I gotta be cranking down on that. But you need to turn this so it's putting pressure in at the same time. All you need to do is hold a little pressure on it and turn this, and your hand's gonna automatically turn. Just keep it. You don't need to really crank hard on it. Now I try and drive that in a little bit, because the end of this is a little torn up, but does that really matter? Because it's going to be on a wall or on a bar, and nobody's ever really going to see this bottom. So I crank it in a little bit. Now I just do this. Oop, I forgot to hold this part. Go backwards. That just broke it loose. Now I release this, which it's already loose, isn't it? And just do it backwards, and it pushes the tailstock right away. Now it's off, and that's in there almost permanently.
It's easier to break it than take it out.
Well, that's what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to put a chisel in this crack and split it in half to get that out. Oh, I had this locked. Let's go. You want to see it?
No, so,
Okay.
so you had to like make that little,
Yeah.
It's just a bolt.
Okay, now while this is on here, it would be on like this. This is in the chuck, that hole's drilled, this is drilled, the insert is inside there. I will take the live center and put it right inside there. It's got a little cup on it,
Can you
so we can pass this one around.
pass that little piece you made?
This?
No.
the
This
little
little
part.
tool.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that can be in there. Because there's a flat spot where you could put a really big flat screwdriver to screw this in too. Some of those even have an Allen hole in there. You can put an Allen wrench in. But I wanted brass because this is a brewery and technically they will be getting wet. Okay, so this is now inside the hole, and if this is longer, that's very important. So I would come at this point, no matter what shape of tap handle I'm doing, and clean up this end so there's no torn fibers under there. Just using a spindle gouge, you can use a skew. I purposely screwed that thing in. It's not quite an 1/8 inch deep below the center. Just right down there, just try to slightly undercut it so if they set it there, it's there. Now that's a nice clean cut.
Did you draw these little guys on here?
Yeah.
The ladder and everything?
Yeah, the smokestacks had ladders and railings on there, and it was my idea to draw the little people. He goes, yeah, do a couple. And now they're on pretty much every single one.
How do you get such a straight line on a round one?
I'm gonna do that.
Oh.
See, she's way ahead of the game. That's why she's out there in Colorado or wherever. Okay, so this one is a little torn up. I'm going to put it in here and clean that up before we do anything. And I can remount this any time to do that. Why don't I do that later, just because, nope, we're going to do it later. Because I need it clean. Is anybody getting thirsty yet for beer? I'm just cleaning up the end like I just did there. I want to chew it up. Put my bevel on here, point the tip of the tool at the center. Do a very shallow cut, slow. Yeah, and if you know somebody does home brewery or has a bar in their backyard, you can make them a custom tap handle. I've done several for people. Okay, so the bottom is completely done, except for maybe a little sanding. Now we're done with this chuck. Where are we? Put this little one, this is just a jam chuck that I can put it on there. I can reverse it, put either end. Sometimes you'll get a chip or do something where you need to change it and touch it up.
But if you do it like that, why can't you just put it in the chuck?
Well, because I'm going to be taking this off. We're going to be doing the rest of it this way. And you could put it in the chuck, but I need to cut this because
So that's your
that will
actual
be the
bottom.
side of the bottom of the piece.
Got it.
And this is my template. I made it out of oak. I want something hard. I didn't drill or put the insert in the bottom. This is just for me to do my measurements. So they're all the same size off of this one. Okay, and I put it back between centers like this because a lot of times you drill, it's going to be off. Like this tenon, where I put this in, is probably going to be wobbling a little bit. Yeah, see this tenon's not true around to the hole. So now I'm going to cut the hole outside. And I like to do the big fatter part first. So when I take my calipers and just set them to the widest part here, because this all tapers down slightly. I do this one and then just straight cut across. Then I mark these spots. I cut that, clean up here and here. After I shorten it to the length. This is just a spindle roughing gouge without the big tall sides. Again, this is softer wood, so I need to check this more often. Yeah, I could have done a beer tap handle like this and it'd be a really short demo. But nah, these are just ones for this certain brewery. Now the colors on there were really true to the actual smokestacks. So when they blew them up, he got pieces of it, the white and the red. But before they did that, he had really good photos of it. So this is Kyle, one of the owners of the place who started it. And he said, okay, these are the photos I got, and I want the colors as true as possible. So I went to Lowe's and Home Depot and got every flavor of red paint chip that they had. It was like 45 of them. And we're sitting there looking at him and looking at him for 5 full minutes, and he finally goes, I'm colorblind, you're going to have to pick the color. So you could have told me that 5 minutes ago. So I went this color. And I figured out that just regular white and that color red, I knew polyurethane yellows. So when I put 3 coats of poly on there and it yellows, those are the exact same color. A little more speed. Now if I'm trying to do a long straight, you can see how I'm moving my body and I have my finger riding along here. It's quite easy after you've done several hundred of them to get a perfectly straight line. I've done a lot of keens. I made a whole lot of wooden dowels for this company that recycled the great big beams, and they had to plug all the dowel holes. Old Florida hardwoods, I made like 250 dowels of different sizes for them to plug all these holes. Plus this uses a lot less energy than if I'm doing this kind of thing. Okay, now I want to come over here, do my first size. I'm going to double check my calipers. And I like these, I rounded over the points. These are really loose. So when I get my size and I run it down over with the parting tool going, they automatically open up and make that bigger than it needs to be. So I can tweak it down to the proper size. If you have a set of these, I got one set that used to be my buddy Herbie's, and they are so hard to move. And they're stuck. When you set it, it's there. That's why I like these. Taking my parting tool, when you're doing it one-handed, your finger should be on the top of the tool. And the handle up under there. And your arm next to you, so you can just come straight in and out like that. You can still raise and lower it. Now, I know this opened up a little bit, so I'm going to reclose it. Yeah, that's the perfect height. I'm going to come down and do this fattest part. Like I haven't made any of these in a while, and last week when I was making the 6 new ones, I did this one and I cut that completely off. When, at this point. And I'm like, damn it! So I just filled it with sawdust and glue. Because it's being painted anyway, so it doesn't matter. I had to fill it 3 times to get all the divots out. Now I know this thing is about right here. So, and again, I've done over 250 of these. I'm not pushing hard on this, I'm just getting it there and feel. See, my arm's up on top of here, supported. See, now that just opened up a little bit, so it's almost an 1/8 inch too big now. I want to refine that. Nope, nope, nope. Step back. Okay, I did not do my length yet. On the overhead?
Yeah.
Okay, so I made my story stick here. I've got the bottom piece and my 2 ridges marked there. I went on the saw and cut little lines so I could just stick the pencil in that groove and touch it to make my marks on here. But while this is running, I just hook the end little nub here on the end of that, and it holds it in place, and I do all my marks. This big black line here, that's my length. And I forgot to do that before I make this too small, because I'm cutting it down and then going to be bringing this in while I'm cutting it down. So I'm going to do a mark right there. Now, I know this is softer wood, so if I come in with the parting tool, that top piece is going to be all torn up. So I want to come close to it. And then I'm coming back with my spindle gouge. Again, on its side, the point pointing at the center. Come out here. Nice slow cut. My pencil line's still there. Now the little nub bit that's here, I'm going to cut that completely through, and then this is going to wobble, and I just tighten it up. And I've done that, taken off this much before. Just keep working it. It's better if you just go and saw it off and come back to it. I'm going to turn around, righting the bevel right on the metal. As long as you don't hit it with your cutting edge, it's fine. This bevel, your grind mark, I'm going to come down and you hit that wood. Turn it back over the other way. And now I just tighten it up, come back in again. I usually have that, Cindy draws the vortex tool, a 1/4-inch rod with just a long bevel on both sides. And I'll go in and hit that with that, because I can resharpen it that quick. I try not to do that too much with the tip of my spindle gouge. So the top is cut cleanly, except there's a little ridge there. Make sure that's tight. Now I'll come back. It's still pretty true. Remeasure. And I've done that before, I forgot to do that part, and then as you go in, sometimes the hole is tracking off. This will start to wobble after you get that. But these don't need to be exact, because they're this far apart. They're like where that wall is, and you're here ordering your beer, or maybe you're at a counter and they're right here. And they don't all need to be exact.
It will be after 2 beers.
Yeah, well, it won't, yeah, after 2 beers.
If they would be exact, they would be a handshake.
Yeah. Okay, so now I have my size here and my size here. So I'm just going to straighten all this out pertaining to those, and cut marks, cut these into it, trim this down, and that part's done. Spindle roughing gouge again. I like to get this end down to it, or that end, it doesn't matter, and then work the center over to it. Okay, so right here is where we need it. This end is going to be smaller. Yeah, Yeah, Dave Piper called, I talked to him and Kay, and they're not here because they both still have this cough thing going on. And they didn't know if they were contagious, didn't want to come here and infect anybody. That's why they're not here. I think they came, just went to the concert next door. A little more entertaining. And if you're exactly gliding that bevel across, if I have a spot like that, that's smaller, I can come down if I'm exactly on that bevel. Just come down and it'll quit cutting when you go over the low spot. Alright, so this end is where we need it, this end is where we need it. If I measure this one here, that will be good. Oh, this is all torn up. There's some rock in here. This is going to be a fail. Well, good for a demo. Yeah, I would not have made this as an actual beer tap. I was hoping it would turn out better. Like right there's a good spot. But there's some punk because you could see all this torn stuff. It's fine for the demo. All right, now at this point, I take my template, and again, if I'm just doing a beer tap handle like this, I would have this screwed on to the bottle stopper drive, if you have one. That piece I made is just a bolt that I cut the head off. And it goes into Jacob's chuck, or if you have a chuck with small jaws, I put that in there. Now I hold this on here, I'm going to mark the high spots. Slow it down a little bit. Now I just rub it against the wood, it won't go anywhere. And now I come in with the calipers again. And I get this fatter part here. Speed it up a little. Start my cut. I'm starting it a little high. And ease it over. That's where we need it. Now, when I started making these, I'm thinking the bartender, man or woman, is going to be grabbing this over and over. Sometimes they'll grab it here. There can't be any sharp corners on this. Same with this top piece. So right now, I'll come in at an angle with the parting tool. I'll just use this left corner and smooth this over a little bit. I'm here, I got the tool in my hand. Now I'll just run it right down to that corner. Now for the calipers, I'll caliper this size and cut this first, and then it automatically opens up, and then I just bring it over here and do that one. It almost always opens it right up to that proper size. And the same thing down here. Just saves me a step. If you bump something, recheck it. Now, if I was using this wood, I know there's problems with it. So I would cut this past the line. Okay, now that just opened up. Now I do the small end, and it'll open up to this size. And on this wood, since it's a little sketchy, I would make that bigger and come back later with my spindle gouge and cut those top surfaces smooth. Because you would see all the torn grain, and painting it and doing all that would be an issue. And now we're set with the end. I usually get rid of a little of that. Lightly touch it. And if we were doing a handle like that, we'd be done already. This is just a little bit. Now it opened up a little, so, and it'll open up more when I do this right. And when I'm doing these, I do one step over and over and over. Like I'll round it out, put the tenon on both ends. Throw the next one up, round it out, put the tenon on both ends. Put the one in, drill the 3/8 hole, flip it around, drill a 3/8 hole, then drill a bigger hole, set it down, do the same thing. It's just production work. Now to remove this, I like to use this. And on my spindle roughing gouges, I like the corners sharp on those. When I started turning, I was always jabbing them in and creating problems because I wasn't paying attention to that, wasn't aware of it. So if you have this sharp corner, I can rough them out and come in on an angle with that corner and go doop and cut a perfect tenon with the sharp corner. So now I'll be leaning this way and that way. Carefully get the corner in so I don't hit that part. Same down here. Now this is almost there, so my best cut is going larger to smaller. My final cuts, I want to go down that way. This has to be torn up. Yeah, see that's shredded. This is punky wood. So I'll come over here and blend this one in carefully. And when I'm coming down here, I'm trying to have my cut taking place close to the corner when I'm going down this way. Because I want to get it down here. If I'm this way, and the cut's happening up here, the corner can jab into this and destroy it.
Lee, wouldn't you use a speed for this?
Because I like this better. Now, doing this part is exactly the same as what I just did. How much time we got? 10 minutes, so 8.
7:45. So we don't know how much to do afterwards, so we just make a few more minutes.
10 minutes?
We do instant gallery
Okay,
and
yeah.
jazz and
Okay, so I would do the other one and then take my sandpaper, put it in reverse, just 180 grit, flip it forward, hit it real quick, done. Now this one, it's done, this is a good one. I sprayed some white on there. I usually do 2 coats of white. Sometimes I'll spray the whole thing, but I know right here needs to be white, right here, up here. So I'll put this on like this.
Is that enamel you're putting on there?
Yeah, it's just the white spray can. The final coats, I use the polyurethane spray. And I've got a whole bunch of these ice picks, and I just stab them in the bottom and do that. And then I spray them and then stick them in a piece of wood with a hole in. So, how do we mark the spots? So, it's up higher. How's our speed?
painting is the tedious part, right?
See, and this one's wobbling. Quite a bit, but it's not really a problem. We've had them do that worse, and if we get. So I'm gonna just rest this on here and mark. Pretend this is all white, or at least where the white is, and not the red or the black. So I will lightly mark my spots. This is red, 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 red. Okay, I'd have to change the speed. Now for my little railings, after it's painted, I will come with this is a really good marker. Almost nothing makes it bleed. I'll do 4 lines up here. Just trying to slow it down a little. And the 4 lines here, the same, and then I come back and I just rest this on here. And I draw my railings on there. I think this marker's about shot. Okay, to do the ladder, I just touch the marker. I look at it. If there's some anomaly, like a divot, I'll put a mark where that is. Then it won't show. So I'll come across and across. This is after it's been painted. And I turn it a little bit, and I go across and across. And then there's that pipe. So I'll put the marker on the piece, bring it over, roll it, and run it down there. Now before that's done, I paint the red on it first. So I would do that while the lathe's running. I'd have to slow this down. This is way too fast to paint. And I just dip it in here with it in reverse. And I'll just touch the paint on, dip it again, and then I'll come right up to the edge till I get a really crisp line on there. The white's already done, so now I'm painting the red up here, trying not to get it on the top. And down here don't matter because I'll be going over it with black. And then once I got one coat on this, it either gets set or on an ice pick till it dries, and I'll do a second coat of the red because it always takes 2 coats. And the black usually does it in 1 coat. And I'll do the exact same thing once the red's completely dry in reverse, and I'll start doing this. I'll run it right over that ridge, come up here, do the top. I get paint on this, and I'll run this all the way down to that little jam chuck. That's why I do it between centers on a jam chuck. And then I carefully grab the white and take it and make sure I don't have red paint or anything on me. So I've done that and I go, damn it! I just got big splotches of red here and it just doesn't clean off well. You gotta do white over it again. I've tried many times. So, and once that's done, I mean, these things, that's my template. I cut these out. It's 1/2-inch maple. And I drill a hole in there. And I just, these were long. I cut them to length. And then I cut little notches in there on the corner of the grinding wheel. Just so when they go in, that epoxy has something to hold it better. Because, I mean, that's not really a problem if it turns, but there. And then, yeah, the ladder, I'll just take the marker, go step, 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 do the whole thing, and draw somebody climb in with a beer, and a couple people up there. And
those little guys.
yeah, the first year I did these, one lady who ran the office, she blew that up and had a vinyl Halloween costume like this. She had a hat made, and she was the beer tap handle. That was pretty funny. I think they still have pictures of that on their website. It's Lauder Ale. So, okay, any questions real quick?
Awesome, thank you.
Lee, I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
The paint you're using is regular house paint on Home Depot?
Yeah, that's regular house paint. The white, I usually use a matte, figuring that the other stuff will stick to it better, because I'm putting shiny over it. And again, 3 coats of polyurethane. 2 weeks ago was the first time I ever had to redo any for them. And they gave me 9. Something they were torn up a little bit, and I'll just clean them up.